Neil, we want to talk to you about the front rows this weekend, Ulster against Leinster. This is your wheelhouse, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Do you like it?
The Jack McGrath situation is a bit odd, right? Like,
I suppose odd insofar as, like, he seems to be the one that's looking for this move up to Ulster and away from Leinster. So we probably wouldn't have seen an international player in the last few years try to get away from his home province before. He's clearly doing it because he's fallen down the pecking order with Ireland. He's now out of the starting match day 23 during the Six Nations. Dave Kilcoyne would have got in ahead of him over the last few months. And since being a Lion less than 2 years ago, he's just his form has just slowly regressed. He's had some injuries, and he's at a stage now where I think he just wants to play a bit more. He wants to give himself a fresh start of getting back into an Irish team. And okay, he's probably going to be coming up against his future teammates this weekend.
Yeah, so if you're him, I suppose that makes a lot of sense in your mind. You play it out, but at the same time, you know, the competition is fierce and should be driving you on to greatness at Leinster because you know, Cian Healy's pretty good and probably is reaching that stage of his career where it's not a guarantee. Every year after the World Cup for Cian Healy would be probably a year-to-year thing, just given his injury history. But if you're Ulster and you've developed a front row over the last while and have got a new young kid on the block who's playing really well, you're delighted. But if you're that new young kid who's like made his way, it's just a fairly circuitous route to the Ulster team, you must be going, here, come on.
Probably in a way. I think the one thing that would work out quite well for them is Jack McGrath and Eric O'Sullivan, who we're referring to there. They're two very, very different players. Like Jack McGrath, he reminds me a lot of the real old school prop, brilliant scrummager. He's not going to be making line breaks or putting in 20 tackles a game or throwing offloads. Whereas Eric O'Sullivan is doing that sort of thing as well. He's still probably learning his trade a bit as a scrummager, and there's probably not many better men around to be learning that from than Dan McFarland, who was a loose head prop himself in his time. So he's in a great place in his career. I think I read an interview with him there recently where he was saying at the start of this season his goal was to, I think, start 5 games for Ulster. He's played in 21 of their 23 matches this season, starting quite a lot of, well, the important ones at least.
Was he 6th choice or 5th choice at the start of the season, and then variously players got injured, got kicked out of the club, left for whatever reasons, and lo and behold, he's like, yeah, we're going to play you week in, week out, and we're going to hothouse you effectively.
Yeah, like he's absolutely the first choice loose head for Ulster at the moment, and deservingly so. His form's been absolutely brilliant, and I think it's great to see that as well, because it just shows, you know, we spoke about it yesterday, about, you know, players moving away from the home provinces when they mightn't be getting a chance, and is the edge being lost? Like the Ulster fans this season are absolutely loving him as well, you know.
Well, he didn't even make the Leinster Academy, isn't that his story? That
I've kind of read a couple of different things. I read that he was kind of overlooked, and then I read this week, I think it might have been in the Times online, that he had been invited into the system, but I think they just sort of had different plans for him than what he had for himself almost. And it was only when he was playing regularly in the AIL with Dublin University that his coach put a word in with Ulster and said, have a look at this guy, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then they brought him into the academy, and I think as of next season now he's going to be on a senior contract.
He started as a back row, and the Leinster Academy were like, well, we haven't seen enough of you as a prop. If you're going to be a prop, you got to go play AIL. Went to play AIL with Trinity, and then ends up getting picked up by Ulster, who stick him in Division 1B in AIL, and he goes from there straight to the Champions Cup in about 20 months. So.
Yeah, less than a year ago he would have been just a regular AIL player, which is some achievement, really. Are
Leinster going to do a job on that Ulster front row, or is this Ulster front row actually capable of withstanding? I mean,
I think Leinster will definitely have the advantage when it comes to the scrum. Just the sheer amount of international power they have. Like, I think then second half as well, probably once the benches get emptied, you know, the likelihood for Leinster is that you're going to have someone like Jack McGrath coming off the bench. Then what then is you know, Andrew Porter, maybe someone like that. Whereas for Ulster, it's probably going to be like Andy Warwick. You know, I just think the depth Leinster have in the front row is just going to be a bit too much for Ulster. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes, I think.
All right, good stuff. Thanks.
Cheers.
For that.